So, yeah, what I have been doing is, so I've been sending, like, I never ever use Google Calendar links, like the
Mm.
appointment things. And then I started doing it because I was like, oh, it's actually easy to do. And then you're automatically locked in, and there's a reminder. You don't have to follow up with anyone. But what I didn't realize is if you add someone's email, it automatically creates like a G Suite, Google Meets kind of link.
Yeah.
And then in the description down the bottom, I've been putting in the link for StreamYard. And then I didn't realize that, like, you could delete the Google Meets one. So loads of people, I've been like, what's the story? You come and they've been like, yeah, I'm sitting in Google Meets. And I was like, oh shit. So that I've since
Yeah.
realized that you can actually just delete it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was their fault, not my fault for once. That's a rarity. So how's retirement?
Well, that's,
I'm being facetious.
yeah, I haven't retired. But I have retired from, well, this is my last year coaching CrossFit Games athletes.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very far away from moving to Florida and start playing pickleball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just reshifting the focuses,
Yeah. How's it been since you're announced it? It's been about a week since you announced it, and you've been on with Barbell Spin, you've been on with Savan, you've been on with Talking Elite, you've had articles come out, Morning Chalk Up, Barbell Spin, and different publications. Like, has it been surprising, the reaction? How do you feel like there's been like a furore? Were you expecting it to be quieter? Were you expecting it to be louder? Like, what's your response?
Yeah, it's a great when I started to like come up with this idea that this is gonna be my last year, you start to play in your head like everybody does, and I wish I didn't, but you start to go like expectations.
It's kind of like going to your own funeral.
I like that, actually. Yeah. It's kind of like going, and that's it's really poignant, because the first thing that crosses is like, are people even going to care? Like, that's the first thing, is like, are people, I'm going to, Morning Chalk Up was, awesome and nice enough. And usually they named a bunch of people that were willing to have me as guests on their show. And a lot of other people reached out. And that's kind of the first thing, is like, I kind of do this as an announcement, because the community has done so much for me, and I want to let the community know, but is it just going to fall on deaf ears? It's going to be, am I the only one that cares about this? Yeah. And it felt really good that a lot of people seem to find it interesting, and then the second part is that I got a lot of positive responses, and everybody that sent me, every single person that sent me a DM or an email after the announcement, I responded back to them. And I was wondering, like, because so many people talked about how I've, had some sort of small influence in their journey as an athlete or as a person. And yeah, that felt awesome. But yeah, the greatest fear was like, Ben Bergeron retires from coaching CrossFit Games athletes, and it's like crickets. It's like, no one's so yeah.
It's funny though, like, because it's like you kind of expect that at a point, like, that's basically like kind of maybe it's not, but it's sort of like an extreme version of like imposter syndrome, where you think no one will give a shit despite however many years of being involved and however many people you've impacted, but you still have that doubt of like, oh, what if, like, people are just like, so who cares?
Well, it's also like, it's about, like, I don't have any illusions that this is about the athletes, right? This role that I've played is very singularly focused. It's about getting the 4 to 6 athletes I'm working with that year to be as good as they can. So it's really just an announcement. It's a thank you to the athletes in the community. It's like, it really isn't about anything that, like, if I was retiring from leading the CompTrain platform, if I was retiring from coaching and leading CrossFit New England, that would be that has much more ramifications. But the real thing that this changes is only changing, 4 athletes. It's not like, it's not that big of a thing. So that's where you go, like, are they even going to care? Even though I've, it's been a massive part of my life for the last 15 years. It's like,
Be pretty nice. It'd be pretty nice going to Madison like next year and just being like, "This is nice. I'm gonna go browse the shops, and I'm gonna."
I'm gonna go see if Noble has any good new stuff.
Yeah, it's just like I've nowhere to be. Like instead
I might
of
go
like,
do the community workout.
yeah.
Yeah.
When did you know? Like, when did you decide? Like, was there a switch moment, or was it more of a gradual realization for you?
Yeah, it was more of a gradual realization. It popped up on my radar at the Rogue Invitational 2 years ago. Not this past one, but the one before that.
Wow. Okay.
And the reason it popped up was because it was held on Halloween. And I have 2 kids under the age of 10, and I was going to miss Halloween with those kids. So that's where it was like, ooh, you're really making some trade-offs here. And you've done this for 14 or 15 years. Is this still the trade-offs you want to make? And at that time I said, no, I still want to make these trade-offs.
Yeah.
But then Rogue this year, which is in October again, was kind of where I was like, I think this might be the last time I go to Rogue. And that's where I was like, I think I'm going to just try to like play out what would this look like if this was my last year of coaching games athletes at the CrossFit Games. And it took me until, October until now to put all the right pieces in place to make this something that I feel comfortable and confident with.
Have you got like, I assume your wife, but like as well as her, have you got any like sounding boards? Like, have you got people that you'd sit down and say, I'm going to run something past you and it might not ever go somewhere. It might this might just be something that I say out loud and then immediately think, no, that's dumb. But like, have you got someone that you like a vault that you can just bounce ideas off and get feedback from?
Yeah. My wife is number one by a long shot. But I also have a best friend. Actually, I would say two really good friends that I do that with. One is a member of my gym that I work out with at 6:30 every morning. Afterwards, just today, we just did it. We went for like a 15-minute walk afterwards, and we just share things. Very much a best friend, but also somebody I can really respect from a family, values, and success. He's had way more success than I ever will. And the next one, my next best friend, who is also somebody I felt really good about bouncing this off with, is Cole Sager. Like I have 3 best friends and he's one of the 3, and he's as intimately intertwined to this as anybody. So, one best friend is a member of my gym. He's also my financial advisor. So it really, really kind of like fits that mold. And the other one is one of my athletes, my best friend, and a 10 times CrossFit Games athlete. So kind of nice to be able to bounce it off of that one. And then third one's my wife, who, I proposed,
she's okay.
I proposed to my wife after the 2009 games. So it's like, if there's anybody that's our relation or anybody that understands how deep this runs into the meaning of our lives, it's her.
And like, how long after? So if you decided internally, say at Rogue, or if the idea popped up, say 12 months before Rogue, you decided internally at Rogue, I think maybe this is it. How long were you like gestating on it or whatever until you spoke to someone about it?
It was until after the Open this year. So
you didn't tell anybody until like your wife or anybody?
No, my wife.
Okay.
Yep. My wife, because my wife, I tell her at when I was at Rogue, I was like, hey, this popped into my head. What do you think? Like, there's gonna be
is her response that? Is she like, yes, please stop doing it? Or is she like, oh, whatever you want, honey, I'll support you either way?
In between. Neither the yes, but neither like yes, please, but also not whatever you want. It's like helps think it through. Right. Who would you get to replace you? What does that mean for CFNE? What does that mean for CompTrain? How would you announce that? Like she helps work through all of it.
I find when I tell my wife things like like I'm thinking of doing this, and when she starts, like pulling at threads, I'm like, I shouldn't have said anything. It's like she's too many questions. Like she's making me doubt that I could do it.
I think that's right. And if she's making you think that, she's probably a really good person to bounce off of, right? Because she's pulling at the right threads to make you.
9 times out of 10, she's like, No, like what about this? What about this? Have you thought about that? What about this?
Yeah,
And
great.
then the 10th time is when she's like, yeah, I can see that working. There's like,
Yeah,
okay, do that thing because there's no holes. Like it's not Swiss cheese, it's good.
that's
Um,
good.
so then after, like when you say it to her, was she in at Rogue? No, she was at home.
No, at home.
Okay,
Yep.
so you hang up that call. So like that's like that's a watershed moment where you have that idea, you think about it, and you say it to someone out loud. Now it's not just a little thought anymore. It's like it's an actionable idea, I guess. And when you're sitting in Rogue, are you like losing sleep over it? Are you
No,
confident
not at
in it?
all.
Or
No,
okay,
it neither because it's not a big thing. It's just like
yeah,
um, hey, what would this look like?
yeah,
That type of thing. It's just throw crap on the table, let it kind of like fester around a little bit. It's nothing more than that. But, you know, after the holidays, now it's January, February, and the Open's coming up. Now it's like, um, it's had 5 months to breathe, and
mm,
now it's like this is feeling more and more like the right thing. Now, what does this really look like? Is this really now who would take over? What does it mean for CFNE? What does it mean for CompTrain? What does it mean for the athletes? What does it mean for our family and personal life? And that's where it's like it becomes like let's try to put some things in place.
And you were in, was it Denmark or Sweden, or you were somewhere in
Sweden,
Scandinavia?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
And you were obviously like, there was like, other coaches there, fans and whatever, like kind of milling around. You're doing some, lectures, and you were talking to people and meeting people. And like when people are talking to you there, being like, oh, Ben, I can't wait to see like blah, blah, whatever this year, in your head, are you like, oh, buddy, you have no idea what's coming? Like, this is my last one. Like, is it hard in
uh,
that scenario not to say like,
no, because no one's saying like I can't wait to see what you do at the games in 2 years, right?
yeah, fair.
So everyone's like, I'm so excited to see how Cole does this year. I'm so excited to see how your athletes do this year. I'm
Yeah.
like, me too. Like because I'm going and I'm doing it. So
Yeah.
those but when people are like, what's your 5-year plan or something like
Yeah.
that, that's where you have to kind of go like, well, I'm really excited about what's coming up next. Um, but I'm still trying to work through it and try to make sure that it's the right path that I want to take.
Yeah, that's fair, I think. Um, so like I heard you were on Savan's show. There was a incredible clip that he put out, or maybe I don't know. It just particularly resonated with me, where you were kind of talking about the fact that he asked you, "Are you through it?" Like that you said that you felt you've been kind of wounded by the last maybe 12 months or so, and that you kind of felt, he asked if you were through it, and you were saying, well, you asked CrossFit, are they through it? Like 5 years ago you asked Noble, now are they through it? And you gave these examples saying that you hope you're never through it. And like I think that kind of particularly resonated with me, because I was like it's basically the opposite of complacency. It's like you can
Mhm.
never, obviously you still want to be able to enjoy the moments, and you want to be able to radiate and your bask in your glory or whatever, and be like, this is nice, this is all going great. But you never want to think like, oh well, that's it then. Like it's
Right.
like, just stop doing everything because I've peaked. um but in that conversation with him, you said that it kind of felt like things maybe got out of control a bit, like that there was an idea and that it kind of snowballed a bit, maybe a bit too quickly or a bit too aggressively or something. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think it's very fair. Yep.
And then so there's always been like CompTrain, like the online coaching platform that I could do or anyone could do. And then there's been CrossFit New England, and then there's been the elite side, we'll say. Um, And I'm curious, like from speaking to you before, like CFNE and CompTrain have always been like, you're incredibly passionate about both of them. So with the decision to kind of invest more heavily in the elite athletes, and to kind of, there was talk of an academy, and there was talk
Yeah.
of like the guys all moving in. Was that like panic? Was it like a keeping up with the Joneses thing? Was it like, oh, everyone else doing it, we better do something? Was it trying to be leaders in that because you have been leaders in the past in it? Like, what was the thought process there?
Yeah, I don't think it was keeping up with the Joneses because we were pretty much the no one had done it. So
Yeah.
it was I spoke about this before, but it's basically I had a vision for where and a belief of where I thought the sport was going and where it was headed.
Yeah.
And if you look at the trajectory of where it was from 2012 to 2017, it wasn't hockey stick exponential growth, but it was really linear. Like every year, the bigger crowds, bigger eyeballs on the media, whether it was the live broadcasts, the YouTube stuff, or the fittest films. Prize money continually went up and up and up, more and more sponsorships. It was a really fun, really exciting thing to be a part of. So then, there's all this talk of like, we're going to be the next UFC. We're going for 100 million participants and like a billion eyeballs. Like that's like, 300 million eyeballs. It was like, okay, let's be at the forefront of this thing. If this is where it's going, let's create an academy. Let's be the first ones that help these athletes be professional athletes. Let's give them, agency side of help, negotiating deals and, sponsorships and a true professional training institution that they can be a part of. And as you said, it essentially spun up too fast. It wasn't in line with where the sport went. And that created I think it created a gap. It created a gap for me in terms of like where I wanted to be and where we were. It created a gap between what I wanted to be doing with the athletes and what I was doing. And I think it created a gap from what the athletes expected and what they got. So yeah, that's a really, whether you're an entrepreneur, an athlete, or just somebody walking through life, being in the gap is a really shitty place. And what that means is you're living in the area between your expectations and reality. And that's a really dangerous place to live because you're constantly disappointed.
Yeah.
You have and this is where the danger of like, yeah, vision and goals are phenomenal, but that's what vision and goals are, is they're visions and goals. It's not like I need to be here. It's just what I want. And, I came across this concept recently, which I really like a lot, is instead of living in the gap, let's live in the game. And the gap is if you're an athlete and you're, say you're Ireland, right? So what is it? Soccer? What's the big
Rugby.
Rugby.
Yeah.
Love it. I played rugby in college. Love it. Okay. So rugby, let's say at halftime, you're down by 6 tries, right?
Yeah.
At halftime. And you're like, if you're in the gap, what's going through how do you walk into the locker room? Like you're disappointed, you're let down.
Probably not going out for the second half.
Yeah, right. Frustrated, anger, disappointed. Like there's all this negative stuff. That's a crappy place, as opposed to there's a game to go play. Like, let's just go out there and play that game. And that little like shift of framework of mentality, I think it's a really powerful place. It was really eye-opening for me when I came across that. And I realized, and I've used that term a lot with my wife a lot. It's like, I'm in the gap. Like even before I came across that, and I didn't have the game part. I knew it wasn't healthy to be in the gap, but I didn't know what the other place was. And the other place is understanding that we're all playing this infinite game, not a finite game. And if a finite game, there's known rules, a known scoreboard, and everything is set like rugby. Like you have the pitch is so big, you get so many points for a try, so many points for a kick. There's a scrum that happens here. There's this much time and a half. The team that scores the most points wins. That's a very finite game. Where the infinite game is more like business and life, where there is no way to know who's winning in business. Because is it by number of customers? Is it by growth rate? Is it by market share? Is it by profit? Is it revenue? Is it number of employees? Is it number of years you've been in business? Like everyone gets to decide their own metrics.
Yeah.
So who's number one? And understanding the role of that happens in business is that it's going to be cyclical as well. And still our lives, it's the same type of thing. So I've worked with, I've tried to challenge myself over recently to try to make sure I'm trying to be playing the game and not, getting caught up in the gap.
Yeah, it's interesting because even you think of like straight away what popped into head is I I've heard CrossFit in the last, 12, 18 months talk about um, how many new affiliates have joined or whatever. And you're like, how many of those were affiliate? How many have left? Like, or how many are, like
Right.
that's, you immediately think like, what way, is this just a genuine metric they're sharing, or have they spun this to sound like a positive when,
You can,
if you really dig in, like, so anyone can say they're winning by, look at all these earnings we've taken in. It's like, nobody mentioned the massive loan or the, like,
right,
just keep that
right.
quiet. So those guys then, so you had like Chandler was there, Cole was there, Amanda was there, Emma, and then like, was there a point in the season? Was it the whole season? Was there a point in the season where you felt like you were in the gap? Like, was it, did you kind of go in one day and be like, oh, this isn't actually working the way I thought it was? Or was it more like in hindsight that you were kind of like, that didn't really work out the way we wanted it to?
No, I knew it wasn't working the way I wanted it to. But it was before, we had some of those athletes. We've had athletes come and go, but it was before those athletes left that I knew this wasn't in line with the vision that we were trying to go towards.
Yeah.
And it's when we went for this, like, we were like, let's try to go for growth. Let's try to make this thing into something really, really big and powerful. And that's where we kind of lost our way a little bit. It was instead of like staying true to our, ethos, vision, and, values and purpose, which is let's create a really awesome tribe or family of formidable people, that believe training hard is a necessary ingredient to being the best version of yourselves, and that better people make better athletes. We kind of went like, caught up in some of the other stuff.
The glitz and the glamour, I guess. Were those athletes, you don't have to give me specifics, but were those athletes paid by CompTrain to be CompTrain athletes?
Yeah, some were. Yep.
And that, like, because that's kind of, it's not rare, I guess, but it's something that isn't spoken about, and it's something that's really, I remember writing.
I think we're the only ones that have ever done it.
Yeah, you're definitely the
And
only ones that have ever been kind of like semi-public about, like, not.
And the reason was I
avert about
wanted
it.
to try, like, I wanted to be I wanted to try to help move the sport forward.
Yeah.
So it was essentially like a form of profit share, right? Like, if
And
we're gonna,
how do you decide? Because if you're the first guys doing it, and if there's no like table, there's no like,
yeah,
cross reference sheet. Like, do you just pluck a number, or are you just like, how do you work out like, okay, well, this is what we feel like you're worth to us. Is that acceptable? Is it awkward at the start? Is it like, how do you land on a
yeah.
number?
The honest answer is, yeah, it was awkward because here's this thing that we have both been doing for the love and the passion forever. And now we're like, hey, I'd like to compensate you for being a part of this thing. And one of the things that we've never done well is making the elite athletes feel like they're a part of this CompTrain thing, this is kind of what we're bringing. This is what we're changing going forward. We're creating a community. Like, we're creating a group of people that do this thing together. And it's always been kind of like, it's always been the elite athletes are the tip of the spear, and you just hope that people are trying to like grab onto the spear.
Yeah.
It's like, that's like, if Kat and Matt and Brooke and Cole do awesome, it's gonna be like, okay, I hope that, which I think is pretty much the model that most of these, other programs are doing. It's like, let's get people to do well at the games, and people want to be like them, and they'll jump on our program.
Yeah.
That's a model, and that model works, particularly if you have cool people or that they win. But that's never been that's not the thing that I get excited about building. I want to build something that everybody feels like they're a part of. It's a difference of like what Harley Davidson has done. Like, everybody that rides a Harley is a badass, and everybody that drives a Harley feels like they're a part of that tribe.
Yeah.
And there's not one person that is like leading the Harley charge, or that we're all like, we all want to be like, Billy Bob Harley. It's like, we're all this thing.
Yeah.
And that's really what I want to create with this in the next evolution. And I'm really, really excited about where we are. And made the announcement that I was going to be stepping away from working with the elites to be able to have the time and energy to put into this. And we're already moving really fast, and we're going to have something really cool in terms of a platform for us all to jump onto really shortly.
That's cool. I will get onto all that. I don't want you to think that I'm not is this guy only going to talk about what happened 12 months ago. Another thing on Savannah's show, you mentioned that Harry was like deeply integral to CompTrain starting and growing and becoming what it was and everything. And I need to ask this first because I've asked 3 people, I've gotten 2 different answers. Like Pally like Valley or Paley like, I can't see it being Paley because it just doesn't make sense. Like if
Harry Pally.
Pally is the only one that makes sense. Okay, because someone else called him. I think Savannah was calling him Paley, but I mean, I don't know, has he ever gotten anyone's name right first time? So if he's like, you're like essentially your partner, you're like the person that you bounce everything off, the person that's like, he's vital to everything that's happening. He's obviously involved with coaching the elites. Like he's, worked with Amanda, he's worked with Sam, like he's, still working with them really. And then he was like really involved with like the masters stuff, I believe, as well. And then with the app and stuff. So when he decided to leave them, when he was like, when he left, like, do you mourn that? Like, how do you respond? Because like, obviously there's these things that's like, oh, like that's fine. Everyone makes decisions and it's a personal decision, blah, blah, blah. But obviously the business Ben must be thinking like, oh shit.
No, Harry was one of my closest friends, and we together, he wanted to try something. He was either going to go and like become a firefighter. He was going to go back to school. So he was kind of like trying to figure out what's next in his career. And he ended up just taking a fair amount of time off. Before finding what was next. So in terms of, one of my very closest friends no longer working for me, of course, there's like this moment of like, not mourning, but like loss. Like, there's like a space that probably won't ever be filled. But also super happy for the next evolution of what he wants to take in his own career and personal life. So I would never want to hold that back from. I'm all for it. Like I wanted him to go do that.
And when he joined HWPO though, were you like, God damn it? Like, because it must be, if it was like, oh, I might go to be a firefighter, I might, go back to school, and then you see it pop up with essentially like a massive competitor in the space for what you were trying to do. Like there must be disappointment there. And I'm not trying to get you to like speak ill of him or, like, I've met him, he's a really nice guy, but I just mean from a personal perspective, that must be a bit of a gut punch.
Yeah. You can try as hard as you want. I can't speak ill of him because he's
I don't know if anybody can.
Person. Yeah,
I don't
right.
Think if anybody can, yeah. He's also amazing. Ripped as shit, so I don't think I'd ever.
Oh my
personally,
God,
I'd be too afraid to ever say anything bad about him.
He's the jacked ginger. He's like the Okay, so what was the? Was I when he popped up with H?
Yeah.
So mixed emotions. So like that's kind of weird. But B, I hope that he can find a lot of satisfaction, and I hope that he's taken the time to know this is the right next move.
Yeah. And do you mean weird? Do you mean weird as in, oh, that's weird, I thought that that this wasn't the thing for you, but now you're back? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Did you talk to him about it afterwards, like about the
reversal? I've talked to him probably like 10 times since. And we talk about all sorts of stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, he seems to have found his feet. I don't think there's definitely no need to worry about him. I don't think he seems quite confident of what he's doing. And as well, I repeat, he's fucking massive as well. So probably not worth criticizing anything he does. With after that then, so when you came to the end of last season, it couldn't have. Obviously, there's positives, and there's always positive. You can find positives in every season, but like last season must have been tough to take with, say, like Chandler, and he had like a kind of a weird semifinals experience, didn't get to make it through to where he wanted to be. That's disappointing. Amanda had moved to New England and then moved, didn't work out, moved back, and that's obviously disappointing. And like when you see it kind of unraveling almost in real time, and then when the season is over and the dust is settled, like was there, you just you kind of decided at Rogue, like, okay, maybe this is it? Was that a part of the decision at Rogue? Do you think the fact that it hadn't gone to plan, and that it had not soured, but like hadn't, not even that it hadn't gone to plan, but it hadn't gone well for some of the individuals involved as well? Do you think that pushed you to your decision a bit too?
I don't think so, because Chandler finished like 5 points from winning Rogue. He came in second at Rogue. So we had a great yes, we did not. Chandler had this weird allergic thing at Granite Games leading up to the games, which kept him out. And we didn't have the finishes that we were in the teens, with our athletes, instead of pushing for the podium like we're used to. But then Chandler is on this massive upswing, where the only person in the world that beats him at Rogue is the two-time world champion, and it was really close. So if I was playing that roller coaster, I would say we would have been on more the upswing at that point.
Yeah.
So it's not as influenced by the recent stuff as it is, if you take this in 5-year chunks, and I really like new stuff, is the kind of and that's why I was excited about the academy, and that's why I was really excited about the growth of the sport, and that's why I'm excited for what we're going for now, because I've done this thing for a decade and a half, and I feel it really does feel like the right time for me to pass the torch and put my efforts into what's next.
Speaking of passing the torch, so there's like an incredible group of coaches at CompTrain. Like, I sort of passed Jarrett like ships in the night in Berlin. We didn't actually talk to each other, but we were both in the same building, so that counts, I guess. But like, there's obviously there's a great current crop, and there's a history of like really good coaches at CompTrain. Was Cole the immediate, like, oh, it has to be him? Or like, did you kind of bounce around a bit? Did you talk to everyone? Like, how did you come to, how did you come to that decision? And then how quickly after coming to the decision did you say to Cole, like, okay, yeah, it's this is happening?
So I'll answer the second part first. I talked to Cole about it at quarterfinals when he was here. So Cole lives on the West Coast. He came here for quarterfinals, and when he was here, that's when I had the conversation with him. And how did I come up with Cole? Honestly, I don't remember, but I remember when it kind of popped up, I was like, oh, like, duh, like that's such a, how did I not think of that before? Like, that's such a natural fit. I'm super close with Cole, and I've talked with Cole probably for the last 3 years about what he's going to do in his next phase of his career. Like, he's a young dad starting up a family, and when this goes away, there's got to be something for Cole next. And we've talked a lot about what that might look like. Does he, we toyed with the idea of coaching, but it never was like, hey, let's do coaching in terms of CompTrain. It was like, could you be an influencer? Could you work with another brand? Could you, we talked about, like, should you go back to being a mortgage broker? Which is what he was doing his first year at the games. So there's lots of like conversations, and that's when it popped up. I was like, Cole seems like the natural fit here. The more I leaned into it, the more it fit.
And like with the others then, say like with like Jarrett, and like, do you sit down with them? Are you expecting them to feel overlooked or disappointed, or are you expecting them to, because of what you know about them, whatever, you're expecting them to like just buy in straight away and be like, yeah, great, like, let's go, captain, kind of thing?
Yeah. Both. If they Jarrett would have been the next potential in line. It would have made sense. He works with the most elite athletes that we have.
So if anything happens to Cole after this, prime
Yeah,
suspect.
if Cole's assassinated, then he's the vice president. Yeah. So he would have been the next, but the reality is Cole knows the CompTrain. What Cole's more ingrained. I've been with Cole for 7 years, maybe. And Jarrett's been with us for 2+. Cole has been to the games 10 times. Jarrett has been twice.
Yeah.
Cole has worked with a dozen other games athletes. Jarrett has worked with a couple. So when you put them next to each other, while Jarrett is a very strong coach, Cole is a stronger fit for us and where we want to go.
I suppose Cole probably fits, and I don't mean any just disrespect to Jarrett, but Cole probably fits, like, he ticks a lot of marketing boxes and a lot of, like, you know, like, I'm not saying he will be, but like, if you were to choose a figurehead who literally just like stood out front and waved, like, Cole is perfect. And then if he can also bring other things to the table, you know what I mean? Like, it's like if you announce someone that nobody's ever heard of, people are going to be like, what the hell is wrong with Ben? Like, what's he doing? Like, if some random person just popped up, like, oh, this is Margaret, she's in charge of CompTrain now. Whereas like when it's like a recognizable name, a recognizable face, someone with success in the sport, someone with like brand marketability, with their own brand, and with CompTrain as well, like there's a lot of boxes being ticked. And what about the coaching side then? Obviously, if you were to make a list of like all the, you know, what would you call it, like successful, or, you know, the first names that pop into your head with coaches, Cole wouldn't necessarily be particularly high on that list. Like when I saw it, the first thing I thought of was like, God, have I ever heard Cole talk about like coaching apart from being coached? So is the experience that you're thinking of with him, is it that side of it, that like he knows what it's like to do it and to hear it and to put it into action, and as well as his experience around, like, well, he obviously knows what coaching is because he's been coached and been around elite sport for so long here and in football?
Yeah, no, I've seen we have athlete camps. So where we bring in the people that we work with, and you know, whether it's example would be at quarterfinals. We had a dozen athletes here trying to make it through quarterfinals to get to semifinals. Cole from day one has always played the role of coach by default to the other athletes there. So he is a coach at heart for sure. It's the reason he got into this sport in the first place, was to have impact on. Some people do it because they want to build a brand. They want to whatever. He's very faith driven, and he believes his purpose is to change people's lives. And because of that, that's what a coach, that's a role of a coach. He's he does it really naturally, but natural isn't enough. He's also very skilled at what he's doing as well, because he's such a geek of the sport. You know, nobody has more spreadsheets on, you know, running velocity curves than Cole Sager does.
That's interesting, because I would not have pegged that. Like, I wouldn't have assumed that about him. So that's interesting. I'd imagine Fikowski probably does, but I'll take your point. That's like Cole has a lot. Like, we'll go with a lot. That's interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. And then I just, when you were talking about your athlete camps, I thought I should have come with another athlete. I just remembered that when we spoke about Lucy, that she joined soon after. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Can I think of anyone? I'll keep thinking and see if anyone pops up. Although I suppose I should probably tell Cole now, I suppose. With the announcement from him, then the assumption was, I think, for a lot of people, when they heard Ben Bergeron is stepping away from elite coaching and Cole Sager is stepping into elite coaching, and it's his 10th year at the games, like it's a perfect little bookend there. And then he's like, but I'm still competing. And I think everyone was kind of like, what? Like when he said that. like, is your job then in this, say, this first period, obviously you're stepping away from elite coaching, but like you're going to have him through that, I suppose. That's a lot to
Yeah.
navigate, and there's a lot of like unknown territory. Plus there's the fact that, like you mentioned, he has a kid, has his family, he's also wants to compete. Like, you know, you can't be 100% into everything. You know, we all know how that turns out. If you try to go all in on 10 different things, like what happens to 10 things. So are you envisaging that as well as your role that you're kind of sliding into, that this will also be part of your duty in your first, you know, like helping him through this initial stage, I guess?
It's going to be kind of like two legs to that, or two pillars, which is, yes, I've done this for a while, and I have a way that I've done it and found to be able to do it successful while still having a great family and running a great business.
Yeah.
So substitute the business for the athlete thing, and there's Cole's kind of three prongs. So yes, I can help give him my advice. It'd be weird not to, especially he's my best friend. But then the other approach is, I don't want Cole to try to be me. So he's, you know, we had, this was one of the first conversations we had, is, Cole, as you start to visualize this program that you want to develop, take any of the lessons or the legacy of what you've seen since you've been here, but there's no sacred cows. If you want to do it a different way, let's do it a different way, because this is the way it should be, in line with your vision and the way you feel like you can have the most impact. So we're starting from like a zero. We're starting from a zero, which is like, you know, yes, we have some athletes that we work with, but beyond that, what is the way we want to build this thing? And we'll build it together. It's not completely on Cole, but it's also not me handing it to him.
Yeah. It's kind of like watching someone else mind your kid. Like, it's, you know, like you have certain ways that you do things with your kid, and you know what they like and what they don't like, and what's worked and what causes a tantrum, and like what, you know, like appeases a tantrum. So like it will be difficult, I imagine, to watch him do it and be like, no, never mind. Like, or like not to like just like tut silently in the corner when something doesn't work out.
Yeah, but that's how you learn. So it's okay. Yeah. And maybe like, and what also is like, the things that I do that cause a tantrum with my kid, if somebody else does it, it might not cause a tantrum.
Nuts,
So,
isn't it? Isn't that the most frustrating thing about being a parent? That
so it's like,
it's
so you
so
want
annoying.
to give people a heads up of like, hey, this is something I've seen, but it's not what you're seeing. It's something different.
Yeah. Like, I collect my kids from the childminder, and I'll say like, oh, I see they're not wearing their shoes. It's such and such. No, they just let me take them off. They didn't care. It's like, what? I had a 2-hour argument this morning about taking the shoes off. Something that you've been kind of vocal about in the past, or very vocal about in the past, is the need for young athletes to play different sports and to be involved in different things, and to, you know, like experience different environments with learning sports and activities and stuff. And I guess all of that kind of started popping into my head when I saw about, you know, Olivia and Mal and Haley, and the kind of younger athletes that seem to be, it seems to be, like, we don't know all the details on everyone, but it seems to be the mental strain of the sport and the, you know, demands of the sport. Plus, I'm assuming there's a lot of like social media pressure and that kind of stuff as well, advertising and stuff. Do you kind of feel like is there a part of you that's just like, I've been saying this, like, this is what I was talking about, this is why I was talking about it, like, why do people not listen? And then is there also a bit of like, when you see those athletes, like, there are 3 females that I've listed, and then you're also working with Lucy, who's a female and who's like, you know, a child essentially. Is like, do you feel any extra responsibility towards her because she's in a very similar boat to the boat that those girls were in, and she arguably has the same amount of potential? And, you know, like, when you talk to her, it doesn't feel at any point like you're talking to a 16 or 17-year-old when you're talking to Lucy McGonigal. Like, it feels like you're talking to a 35-year-old who's, you know, on her 3rd career already and has been there and done it. is it a fine line to walk, like coaching those or working with people of that age group who are in this kind of arena?
I do think it's a fine line to walk. Yeah. Yep. Because you want to be able to milk every ounce of potential you can out of them. But we need to understand what potential is. Potential is more than just how fast you can do Fran, how many, how what's your 2K and what place you come in at the games, right? It's the potential is over their career. And if you go bigger, it's over their lives, right? So like that's their potential. So we had the conversation with Lucy so you're absolutely right, by the way. Lucy's phenomenal, has crazy amounts of potential. She is on track for just like those other athletes that she could go back to back in the same age group, which is kind of unheard of. But we had that talk with her. Hey, even if you make it to the semifinals, not age group semifinals, but the real semifinals, we're going to go there for experience. We're not going to try to go to the games. We don't want to be the young kid at the games. We want to build you in a really sound way. And it's not unique to our sport. You see this in American baseball all the time. In American baseball, there's 3 tiers of minor leagues: A, double A, and triple A. And you see it all the time. The people that get promoted through that system too quickly get to the majors and get shelled, right? And it might be from the pressure. It might be from the competition. It might be from the expectations that they're putting, whatever it might be. And it's a matter of not developing them the whole way. Now, I'm not saying these other athletes haven't been developed. I don't know what's happening with these other athletes. So I can only speak to the way that we're approaching it with Lucy. And that is that we want to take every 1 foot hurdle that we can, making sure that we're stair stepping this thing on the way up and not jumping floors or higher. It makes no sense to me she's 16 years old. It doesn't matter to me what she's doing at 8. It doesn't matter. That's not the right term. I don't need her to be on the podium at 18 or 19. We're trying to set her up for a really good push of this, because if you look at the careers of athletes, it's like 22 to 32, 22 to 31 is really, everyone talks about how short the lifespan is of these athletes. And it's actually not, like, compared to a lot of other sports, it's pretty darn long. These athletes can compete for, 10 really, really high quality years. You don't do that in the NFL. Like you just don't. Basketball, maybe. Baseball, yes. So we have 10 years to maximize. There's no sense in starting that earlier than we need to. Let's set it up for at age 20 or 21.
Obviously, with all the changes at CompTrain, then the kind of parallel I saw with that was like there's a lot of changes at CrossFit and at HQ and stuff. So like Don's been there about a year. They got rid of some of their employees, a couple of months ago from the non-games team. And then I guess a lot of people, including myself, assumed, there'll be changes at the game side, but it'll be after August. And then, day before yesterday, it's announced Justin Berg is gone. No other real details apart from that. And then that Dave Castro is back and he's taking over as general manager. In a scenario that you're in, I'm curious as to what the day-to-day of the Hefe is at a company like CrossFit or a CompTrain or whatever, where you see it every day in other businesses where you end up like kind of yes men, around who are like I see it at my job. I'm a teacher and I see it that there's the principal of the school. There's like a little circle around her that will just be like, oh, yes, great idea. That's brilliant. And like, we'll never question anything. We'll just be like, yeah, really good, really good. And even if you don't kind of promote that sort of culture, it does become difficult, I suppose, to speak out against your boss or like the person who's like signing off your checks or whatever. And like something when I spoke to Don, I brought up something and like it was like he had never heard of it, which, you know, like is fair. There's a lot going on. And it just kind of seemed to blindside him a bit that this had happened. And like, he kind of alluded to the fact that like maybe everybody isn't telling him everything, or, you know, there's maybe some stuff being kept. And I'm curious for you at CompTrain, like, how do you avoid that happening? Like, how do you avoid people hide, like, oh, this is really going to piss Ben off. Like, I need to put out this fire first before I go to him because he's going to be ripping if this happens. Or like, is there a way I can just hide this altogether and like fix it somehow later down the line? Or you saying to the guys like, hey, I think I'm going to like move away from the elite field and just focus on this. And then people going, oh yeah, that's a great idea, Ben. And then how do you know that that's like a genuine great idea and not just like a good idea, boss, like whatever you say?
Yeah, it's an awesome question with no simple quick answer, right? It's like, how do you create trust? That's what the question is. How do I know that I can trust that if I give you my true, real opinions about what you're talking about doing, that I'm going to be met with respect and more than that, are you going to be excited about my viewpoint? And that's really what we want. And what's crazy is different leaders do it differently. And some leaders have gotten to like very, very, very high being it's my way or the highway, like Steve Jobs. If you didn't share the same exact vision, you didn't think it was what everything he was doing was brilliant, you were gone on the spot. It wasn't like right then. But at the same time, he wanted forward thinking people. He wanted people that would challenge not him, but challenge the status quo. And, you know, in our organization, it's never going to be just one simple thing. But one of the ways I try to do it is every meeting, I know I have blind spots and I ask my team to point them out. Gosh, like, what am I not seeing? Tell me how this is going to go wrong. And I literally almost every meeting, I'm like, tell me my blind spots, because everyone has different perspectives on everything that we're doing. And everything that I've done, I shouldn't say I hate absolutes. Most of the things that I've done to this point, my team has challenged me on. And that's how we're going to get our best. Now, the challenging, I need, as a leader, I need to reward the challenging. When somebody points something out that's not in line, I need to thank them in front of the group for pointing that out. Like, that's awesome, Tori. I totally didn't see that at all. Holy crap. This is going to totally change the way I thought we were going to go to market, the way I thought we were going to present this, the way I thought that we would talk to our customers, the way I thought that we would be able to create this timeline, this is really powerful. Awesome, Tori. Cool. Like, highlight it. And from there, it's a matter of making sure that everyone on the team feels safe. So, you know, I just went to lunch with a business partner, and one of the things we were talking about was how when you go to certain hotels, when you go to like a really independently owned, cool boutique hotel, they empower the staff, and the staff can do certain cool things. Like if a customer comes in, they're like, hey, I really don't like this room. Do you have anything somewhere else? Somebody that's empowered and feels safe can go, yeah, let me get you. Actually, I know you paid for the double. Let me get you in this King Deluxe, no upcharge. And like, they're empowered to do those things. Whereas somebody that lives in a bureaucratic environment where it's all hierarchical and systemized, because they believe they're not empowered to do that. And they feel if they make any decisions on their own, they're going to get reprimanded for it. So they go, sorry, sir, I can't do that. We're all sold out. But there's rooms available. I know, but that's not the room you paid for. Like, the difference is drastic for the culture of the organization that stems down to the customer experience. So what I continually try to challenge myself to do is to be a transformational leader, one that is trying to elevate everyone on the team to have bigger skill sets, bigger dreams, bigger hopes, more impact on the organization and be a linchpin and not just a cog, not just someone in here doing a job. And it's never going to be one singular thing, even if it's just that one thing and me going, hey guys, every meeting, tell me my blind spots. That's going to, if I don't do all the other things around that, that's going to look transactional. That's going to look empty. It's going to look like window dressing and not real. So we need to do all of the things and lead from the front to make sure that everyone feels empowered, not only to make decisions, but to speak up against anything and anyone that's coming from any directions. We need healthy conflict. Like every relationship in the world that gets anywhere has healthy conflict, not conflict for conflict's sake. That's toxic, but conflict to try to find a resolution. And as long as you have certain set values and principles, you can navigate those situations, because it's not about what is right. I'm sorry. It is about what is right, not who is right. It's not about who gets the credit. It's about, can we together find the best way to do this thing?
Yeah, I always, whenever I stay in a hotel, I always ask for, you know, the way you can have your special requirements. And I always ask for like a framed photo of a random person, like in my special requirements, to see like, A, do they read it? And B, like, have they got the balls to, because it's good marketing. Like,
has it ever happened?
Yeah, well, I was in Berlin. I asked for a framed photo of Boz when I was in Berlin. It didn't happen. But when you mentioned that bureaucratic thing, when I was checking in, the woman was like, "Oh, check-in isn't until 3 o'clock," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then the guy I was with was being served by someone else who was obviously in a higher position. I was like, "Oh, let me just check if your room is." I was like, she didn't even ask me my fucking name. She just said like, "No, there's no check-in, full stop." But yeah, those boutique ones always do it. If you ask for a special requirement, you ask for a frame photo of someone random, because all you have to do is print it out off a printer, put it in a frame, put it down. That's a potential like return customer, or them telling, "Hey, you won't believe it, this hotel actually went through it, what I told them to do." It's hilarious.
Cool.
But yeah, it's a good little test. Obviously with that, with Justin going, then another thing that's happened is Dave is back, and he's back in his in a new role, I guess, for him with the general manager role. There's been a lot of talk about him, and you've been obviously been around the sport a lot, and you've been around him a lot, and you've dealt with him a lot and engaged with him a lot. And I guess some of the criticisms or some of the reservations about him from certain corners are, oh, people are going to be afraid to speak out. People are going to be afraid of being like blacklisted or excommunicated or whatever. And I was curious, like, one of your big talents or big obsessions, at least, is like people and dealing with people and getting the best out of people. And he's got that. He's got a very specific style of management, of like engaging with people. But one of the things that I think I love about him is that he will never like pat you on the back and then just slowly insert a knife. Like, he will say to you like, "No, that is a terrible idea." Or like, I've had him on the show and he'll say like, "I'm not answering that." And like, you respect it. You know, like, I don't like it. Like, it's kind of like, come on, give me something. But like, I respect that he'll just say like, "No, I'm not answering that." Instead of answering but saying nothing. I'd rather he did that. And like, I've dealt with Justin as well, and you know, the man is fond of saying, "We'll circle back to that." Like, he's fond of like, "Oh, well, you know, that's still would definitely take that under advisement." And you're like, really? Are you actually going to take this under advisement though? Or is it just, are you just saying like persuading me? Whereas Castro will just say, "No, that's fucking stupid." And like, again, you respect it. From your perspective, dealing with him as someone who, you know, loves that side of people and loves that side of business and management and stuff, when you heard that he was coming back, were you like, brilliant, this is just what we need, or had you other thoughts about it?
Maybe it's a cop out, but similar to the answer before, it's a mixed emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. The sport grew under Dave, and Dave did a really terrific job creating a spectacle, which is what the sport should be, in my opinion. You know, he is very, I think his strong suit is understanding what the games are supposed to be. He really won me over in 2016 when he had the athletes get on a plane.
Yeah.
That was just like, I didn't think, and that's when I got really excited. Is like, if the sport's going to do that, then the sky's the limit for this thing, because we can do anything. And the unfortunate thing was that seemed to be the pinnacle in the heyday, and it got kind of stagnant after that. When we went to Madison, like what's the, and I don't think it needs to be like, wow, one up every year. It doesn't need to be that, but it should be big and it should be cool. And I mean, after that, it basically became paddle swim was the offsite event for 4 years.
Hmm.
And then last year was really cool with the Capitol. But the offsite events to me is the thing that kind of like really dictates how much effort is going into the sport. Because I get it. Like when you're on site, you have certain constraints that you're operating within. You have a soccer field and a tennis stadium and the campus of the StubHub Center. At Madison, you have the Coliseum and you have that manufactured
North Park or whatever.
North Park, and then you have the campus, which involves like the dog park, which we've done but the campus is where they did the crit, the dog park's where they've done the other cyclocross things. And then when you go offsite is where it's like, let's see what we got. And offsite in California was amazing, right? We went to Camp Pendleton. We went to the Pacific Ocean. We went to in a plane and went to Aromas, like baller, like amazing stuff. And since we've been in Madison, we've been to the lake. Like that's as much as we've done to do anything kind of like wow factor. So I believe that Dave can be the person that helps bring this thing back towards an upward trajectory. He certainly cares a lot. Like I think all of it starts with passion. And I don't think anybody cares about the games the way Dave does. Like that's kind of, I think you'd have a hard time debating that otherwise. Like there's nobody in the sport that it's his baby. Like he was the creator of it. It was his, brain birth child. And he was the one that nurtured it, grew it, and developed it into this thing that is today. So he can be the person that helps bring it back forward. So
but it sounded like there was a but coming.
We'll see. Right. Yeah. We'll see, because I think it was a crazy, amazing growth from 2000. Honestly, from year one in 2007 to 2017, that 10-year run was awesome. It was a legit linear, like you just plot it. Every year was getting better and better and better. But since 2017, I can't point to anything that goes, this is better than 5 years before.
Yeah. CompTrain, then your new what are you calling it, like 2.0?
3.0.
3.0.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, so I talk to a lot of coaches and I talk to a lot of people who do like programming and who, like are building communities online. And I spoke to John Singleton recently, and he said something that I'll probably never forget, where he just said, sometimes it can be very difficult because there's so much noise to make enough noise to be heard without just adding to the noise. And he was talking about how many different coaching platforms there are, how many different like coaches there are saying we're the best and we're the ones that you should come to. And then how if everyone's just shouting, like you might as well just throw a dartboard at a wall and just pick who you go with. Obviously, that's something now that CompTrain 3.0 is going to have to deal with, the fact that there are a lot more offerings available than there was with CompTrain 1.0 and 2.0. How are you addressing that, or how are you trying to separate yourself out without just adding to the noise?
Yeah, well, if we're just debating programming, it's who's going to win, Batman or Superman, right? It's just like, it's hypothetical. It's just like you can justify any which one for any which way. Everyone's got their own little spin. Everyone's making the same spaghetti sauce, just flavoring it differently.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is create a completely different meal experience. It's not about the different tomato sauce. So we have our different spin on programming than anybody else does. We have our ways of that people should go through the training journey that other people do, and it's unique. But again, if I talk about that, I'm just adding to the noise. So what are the other things that aren't noise, that other people aren't doing that we want to do? And my belief is what we're trying to create is formidable human beings. That's where we need to start. So if we're trying to create more formidable human beings, what are the component pieces that make that up? The first one's obvious. It's the one that everyone's talking about. It's physical capacity. You need to be, if you're going to be a formidable human being, you need to be able to do things. You need to be able to be strong. You have to have endurance. You have to have speed and power. And we're going to train that, I believe, as well as anybody, if not better. But that's not the end of it. You also need to be mentally strong. So here's like if you're walking in the woods with a buddy, you're going for a hike in the woods, you're 3 miles deep in the woods, and a tree falls on your buddy. Well, you need the physical capacity. In this way, it's a really easy way. There's the 10 components of fitness. Like we can boil that down really quickly. Are you strong enough to pick the tree off your buddy? Are you fast enough to go and run the 3 miles to be able to go and get help? If that takes you 45 minutes, that's a long time. Or do you have the capacity to put your buddy on your back and lug him out? Like if we have those 3 things, we're probably in pretty darn good shape. I'm thinking we're a pretty formidable person. Lift a 300-pound tree off your buddy, run the 3 miles in under 20 minutes, or put the 180-pound guy on your back and lug him 3 miles out of there. Cool. We can check the boxes of like that physical capacity. Are there other subcategories? 100%. But the biggest thing we need to be able to do is when that tree falls on your buddy is not freak the fuck out. You need to have the mental capacity to not get rattled by challenging circumstances. We have a platform that helps train people with that. So we have a physical and mental training platform. Then the third thing is a third leg of that stool is you need the physical, the mental. But if you have a physical and mental lone wolf, you are not as fully capable as if you are part of a tribe of like-minded individuals that share the same values and passion. And what we want to do and what we're doing is creating which I believe is really unique, more so than anyone else that's ever created it, including Peloton. I believe that we're going to be creating the strongest online fitness community that we've ever done. So what I want to do is do what we've done here in the walls of CrossFit New England, and I do every single day. We give people great transformative training experiences, whether you want to train for 30 minutes or up to 3 hours. We support you with that with programming. And you decide each day how much time you want to train, and the program will auto adjust to you. Do you want to train for 30 minutes a day, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? We'll have a programming that adjusts to you. And we know what you did yesterday and we know what you're going to do tomorrow. Is still be in line. So that's what we do here. Someone takes a class and they want to do something afterwards. We know what the workout is the next few days. We're not going to have them do, 5 by 10 bench press and then do Cindy tomorrow where they're doing a bunch of push-ups. We know that we can line up the programming regardless of how much effort they want or time they want to put in. But we don't stop there at the affiliate. And I think every affiliate does is doing they're not coloring completely in between the lines. Is let's talk to these guys about how to be mentally tougher. Now that can start with the Trojan horse aspect of let's talk about how to mentally game plan the workouts better. And how you mentally game plan the workouts, just like we do in the gym physically, Recco's outside. It's not about the hour, it's about the 23 hours outside the gym. What we do inside the workout, if you're able to handle the challenges and the adversity that comes through working out, that will help you outside in everyday life as well. And I actually believe in terms of the mental fitness adaptations. I hate the word mental toughness because but mental fitness. If we think of mental fitness the same way we do physical fitness, I actually think the physical fitness is the best training for the mental fitness. If we're trying to get people to be more centered, which is what we are, meaning it takes more to rattle them. It takes them more to knock them off center. So what we want to do is get people more centered. There's a whole toolbox that we can explore. We could have people do meditation. We could have them do breathing exercises, journal, talk to a therapist, read scripture, join a church, sit in an AA meeting. There's a whole bunch of different, go into nature. There's a whole bunch of different tools. I don't think any of those tools match up against go over next door and do intervals of echo bike and thrusters. Like, if I guide you and talk to you about what to think about mentally through that practice, I think you're going to come out more formidable on the other side of that mentally than any of those other practices that we could do. Wim Hof, meditation, cold exposures, talking to a therapist. I think that it's the greatest adaptation happens between the ears. Like, we know this, but we just it has to be conscious. Otherwise, it takes a long time for it just to kind of like seep in. But if you're coached through it, just like if you're coached through a workout, you could do CrossFit for 6 years and not get nearly as far as you could in 3 years with a seasoned good coach. So we're trying to build the physical and mental. But that third component is you need to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And if we are able to surround people with other people that share speak the same truths, that makes you whole. Now you are truly a more formidable person. You're stronger. You can take more. You can be more productive. You're more of an asset than a burden to the people around you. And that's what we're trying to create. And that's where I hope it doesn't sound like noise, because I don't hear a whole bunch of other people talking about that. Everyone else is going, follow my program because we'll do a whole bunch of high power intervals. Follow my program because we have a gymnastics track. Follow my program because ...
You can say, follow my program so your friend doesn't die underneath a tree. It sells itself. Is that so? I assume that you coach that mental resilience about lifting off a tree or not freaking out when your friend gets hit by a tree. Hypothetically, you don't like bring them out into the woods and be like, all right, lie down, Brian.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, the platform is really simple. It's an app. You jump on and there's a daily mindset piece that you listen to for a minute. Then there's the daily workout piece that you do for anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 hours. And then there is a message board where you communicate and contact and friend and share ideas and beliefs and questions. And then there's a university where you dive into for more training, recovery, nutrition, and mental stuff.
That's interesting. Are you the 1 minute that you listen to? Is that you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a video I pop up on, it's a full screen. It's like a reel. Full screen video of me every morning. Every morning's different. 365 of them.
Wow. Are you worried about running out? She gets like
it's a really good question.
New Year's Eve and be like, can you guys remember what I said January 1st? Will I just use that one again?
So when I started my podcast, when we were like 6 podcast episodes in, I was like, Patrick, we're going to run out of things to talk about. And you probably get the same thing. Like, we're on episode 400 now, and the list gets bigger and bigger.
Yeah. What did you say there a second? You said 1 minute mindset video, and what was the second you said?
University
1 to 3 hour. What was that?
Oh, sorry, that's 30 minutes to 3 hours of training each day. So when you come into the app,
depending on your level or what you choose. So
it's like it's a matter of like
I've got half an hour to spare versus I'm going.
So I got a half hour. I need to know what the most impactful training session I can have in 30 minutes is.
And is that just a sliding scale of the 3? Like the 3 hours would be A, B, C, D, E, and then the 30 minutes would be like a cherry pick of those A, B, C, D, E, basically of what's
essentially
going to make the most.
So what we do, exactly. We're like, here's the most impactful thing, and we know what you did yesterday and what's coming up tomorrow. Yep.
That's cool. Okay. And then the university, is that like video based, reading based, mixture?
Mixture.
Okay.
Yep. So it's anything from short to long form content. So 30-second videos up to 30-minute videos, and short blog posts up to long form
thesis
content. Articles.
Geez, you don't do things by halves, Ben, do you? This sounds
Don't have
like a
what?
shit. You don't do things by halves. This sounds like a shit ton of work on the back end to be like,
Well,
keep it on top.
yeah, I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to share with people.
When is this? When is the full launch?
So we're gonna do a live public beta. So meaning like get everyone in there to help us test this thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is gonna be super cool. Like, hey guys, let's pull back the curtain, see how the sausage is made. Come in and give us your feedback in terms of like what you think we could do to improve. Give us your thoughts, and we should be doing that really shortly.
Like imminently, like a week or a month or?
Yeah, closer to a week than a month. Yes.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you? Is it people who are already on CompTrain will just transfer over and beta test it
So
then?
and no, anybody, public, anybody can come in
Oh
and
wow.
test
Okay.
it for free. Yep. So we'll give the full access. By the way, there's also a free thing where people come in and do this thing for free, and never pay anything. And that's you get the 30 minutes of training, you get the leaderboard, you get the workout logging, and all of that. But if you want the multiple different options for training, the university, the mindset, and that's what you can pay for it. But everyone can come in and do this thing for free, but we're gonna give the full access to everybody, so that everybody can come in and test this thing out.
And where will so people just follow CompTrain then? I assume that's the best place to be notified.
Yeah, CompTrain.com or CompTrain.co on Instagram would be
Okay.
the easiest place to follow along with it. Yeah.
You know how business works, right? So you're giving it away for free. I just want to double check that you understand.
Well, it's we want
Because when I
it's
hear how much work has gone into, I understand the concept of like people will do it and they'll love it and want the extras. They'll want like, well, if this is this good, like, whoa, well, it must be behind the paywall. But like so much work seems to have gotten into this, and like every day, so much work is going to have to go in, being like a different video, a different train. Like it's a really really big undertaking. I'm really impressed with the effort that's going in. Like
Thanks.
you talk about like not make like adding the noise. I agree that this isn't a noise I've heard made.
Yeah, so we want to, my hope is that we're creating the best fitness platform that exists. And for the best fitness platform, like I like to, this is what we we're talking before is like you can kind of create like this. Is it if it's in business, you can kind of create your own rules. So let's define what I believe is best. It doesn't need to be biggest because that's not best. Like the Navy SEALs are the best fighting force in the world. They're not the biggest, right? I believe that this platform can be the best if it produces crazy, ridiculous results. So there goes everyone like, all like the other fitness platforms that are out there that just aren't going to match up with results. Like it has to produce really high level fitness, and it needs to have a really engaged and really loyal. And I use the Harley Davidson model for those people, like that type of tribe that is just like so passionately waving the flag, like this thing is awesome, this is amazing, and I could never imagine going anywhere else because like Harley people aren't going like maybe I'll get a Honda next year, It's like it's part of their identity of who they are and what they want to do. Much like CrossFit's done, right? And no one doing CrossFit's like, I shouldn't say no one. Most people that are have been doing CrossFit identify as a CrossFitter. And that's, that's really powerful. They've done a phenomenal job of that. And we want to give those people in our space an additional platform to be a part of, beyond just the affiliate. It's because the truth is 60% of our users don't go to an affiliate. So they're doing this by themselves. So if you're doing this by yourself, you're missing one of those third legs of the stool. You're missing the part of being a community. And yeah, you're part of the CrossFit community, but it hasn't been connected to the garage gym goer the way you are an affiliate.
It is interesting because even like you get that accountability then, like subconsciously, even of like, oh well, I better do the workout because if everyone else is going to be wondering where mine is. Like even I go back to Savant's show, like I remember once watching the live and like Bruce didn't comment, and people were like, "Is he okay? Someone needs to check on him," because he hadn't, like, that's a community. Do you know what I mean? Where like, hey, where's Fred? Why is he not put his workout up? And it's like,
that's amazing.
It is, yeah, it's incredible. Well, best of luck with it. I'm incredibly impressed with how good it sounds. It sounds, if it's half as good as it sounds, it'll be very impressive.
Jump on. It's gonna be free in about a week. So jump on and let us know your thoughts.
I will. But thank you for coming back on. It's been great to catch up with you. Congratulations on all you've achieved so far, and best of luck with adding to those achievements this summer. And then the next phase of your career, I guess, beyond that, and the next phase for CompTrain. It's exciting.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to be excited about things, and I'm incredibly excited about this.
Yeah, rightfully so. It sounds amazing. Well, listen, thanks very much.